I filled up a rum and coke for the ride home, and when we got home, I was out on the back porch staring up at the stars, and it hit me like, "This is it, like, you gotta be done." You know, you're destroying your marriage. Little did I know it was already destroyed. I looked up at the stars and I was like, "God, you gotta help me because I can't do this on my own." I had tried so many times.
Sheila, you are 850 days sober at the time of this recording, which is the end of February. So, can you just take us back to the moment when you first realized that your addiction was affecting not just you, but also the people around you?
I knew that for years. I tried to quit many times. I tried quitting in July of 2013. I lasted about 3 months, and then I would say, "I'm not gonna drink during the week. I'm only drink on Friday and Saturday nights." And that would last maybe 3 or 4 days, and I was right back at it. Um, I'd get home from work around 3:30, and by 4 o'clock, I had at least 1, if not 2 in me already, and I would drink nonstop until I went to bed at 9:30. Some mornings I'd wake up and I'd be okay to go to work, and other mornings I'd be entirely too sick. Um, Used all of my sick time. I have nothing in the bank as far as sick time at work. Uh, October 29th, 2022, my husband and I went to a Halloween party. And it was the first time that I ever met the people who hosted the Halloween party. It was at their house. And, just like every other party, things start out just fine. But we were the last ones to leave. And the host and hostess wanted to go ghost hunting. It was a Halloween party. So I took off my costume and I put on this strange woman's pajamas, and my husband came into the living room and was like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "They want to go ghost hunting." And he was like, "No, we're going home." So I filled up a rum and coke for the ride home, and when we got home, I was out on the back porch staring up at the stars, and it hit me like, "This is it, like, you gotta be done." You know, you're destroying your marriage. Little did I know it was already destroyed. Um, but I looked up at the stars and I was like, "God, you gotta help me because I can't do this on my own." And I had tried so many times. And that night I just vowed, I dumped out what was left in the Solo cup, no pun intended, dumped it out in the yard and went to bed. And the next morning I took whatever was in the house and dumped it down the drain. Uh, I was a very particular drunk. I didn't just grab anything I could get my hands on. Uh, so what I knew I would touch, I got rid of. And I wound up taking sabbatical from work. And it was the perfect storm. We had gone through COVID not long before that. Me being a teacher, we were still trying to get back into the swing of things um, with going back to school full time. I was going through menopause, and I decided to quit drinking. So, I have to say, my anxiety and my depression. Oh, oh yeah, it was a good time. If I wasn't crying, I was shaking. I was paranoid. I thought my heart was going to jump out of my chest. It got to the point I could not go to work and make it past 8:30 in the morning without mentally breaking down. So I went out on sabbatical. And a back note, just about every person on my mom's side of the family is an alcoholic. My aunt, who has been in recovery for 30 years, bless her, invited me to come down. I flew to Florida and I spent about 2 weeks with her. And she took me to my first AA meeting, got me the big book, and has been my sponsor ever since. She's my rock. Whenever there's a bad day, whenever I feel like I can't show up, I'm on the phone with her. It doesn't matter if it's 6 o'clock in the morning or 10 o'clock at night. And, if it wasn't for her and her guidance, I don't think I'd be sitting here talking to you today. So in addition to drinking alcohol, I was vaping, just nicotine. It wasn't THC, just nicotine. But I had done it for so long and so frequently that in May of 2022, I wound up in the hospital with an infection because of it. I spent 8 days in the hospital. I nearly died. My oxygen levels went down into the 70 percentile. I was on steroids for over a month. And that stress alone, in addition to my husband having to financially bail us out because I would start drinking and I would start shopping and I would rack up every credit card that I had to the max. And then he would take out a home equity loan and bail us out. And then I would do it again. Um, and we're both professionals. We both have really good jobs. And I saw it as, well, I get paid and my bills get paid. And I don't understand the problem, but there was no nest egg. There's no, other than the retirement money, there's nothing in the bank. So that has taken a toll on him. And uh, I'm hoping we can work through it. We'll see what happens. But I mean, for right now, I'm grateful to have my sobriety. I hang on to it every day. And that's one of the things that they talk about in sobriety is, being able to sit there with your feelings and not numb them. And that was one of the things. I would come home and I would just numb all the feelings. Like I knew my husband was mad at me. Just drink and then you don't have to worry about it. I know we don't have a lot of money in the bank. Just drink and then you don't have to worry about it. And that was the solution to all my problems until I realized that was actually the problem. So now I'm finding new solutions. And dealing with the feelings is very difficult.
Yeah.
But I would rather that than the alternative.
Yeah, no, I always tell people, I'm like, man, that first year getting through is rough. I said, and then once you get to your 1 year, you have to sit in all your feelings, realize the healing process starts. And because like the first year is getting through, like, white knuckling it, like, let's just get through it. And then you realize, oh my gosh, I have to sit through these feelings. And they suck, but the alternative is definitely worse.
Worse. Yep.
Wow. So is when did you make that decision to quit drinking, and how did you start your journey?
It was literally that night when we came home from the party. And it was just, I don't know if you want to say a light bulb went off in my head or a dawning, but I realized like enough's enough. I've done enough damage. And I actually didn't realize how much damage I really did do until afterwards, because you drink until you're blackout and the next day people are mad at you and you don't remember why. And then nobody wants to talk about it because, well, she was drunk.
Right.
And then you start finding out all the horrific things that you did. It was a lot of white knuckling. I didn't go to rehab. Uh, it was me by myself making a choice.
But so you said you went to Florida with your aunt, and she has been your sponsor.
Yes.
Did you start attending regular meetings like consistently, or did you just really rely on her to help guide you through it?
She guided me. I do attend the meetings regularly now, one through my church and a lot on Zoom. I do a lot of the Zoom meetings online. Um, but yeah, in the beginning, it was just her guidance and a lot of prayer.
A lot of prayer. Did you like start listening to like self-help things or exercising? Like what helped push you to keep
A
you
lot
like,
of
I mean,
meditation.
okay, that's what I was going for.
Yeah.
I know like
I,
some
I
of us.
still I still have meditation apps and the frequency waves. I'll just plug those in my ears and lay back and just listen to the white noise for an hour if I need to. One to help with my feelings, going through those, processing. Growing up in an alcoholic family, you really don't get to process your feelings out loud. It's go to your room, be seen and not heard. So a lot of it's really relearning things that I should have learned as a child that I never did. As a 50-year-old professional woman who's already raised her kids. I should know how to do that. I should know how to balance my checkbook and take care of finances, but unless you put the Greek alphabet into math, I can't do it.
Yeah. So you raised your kids. What was your addiction like when you were raising your children?
Uh, I I went to their functions, but I always had a bottle with me. Sometimes I had it in a container. Uh, they played sports, they were involved in things, so, pour it into a water bottle or a covered bottle, and nobody would know because, you're that smart. Nobody knows that you're drinking.
Nobody
You're
knows.
the only fool. Yeah. You're the only one that's the fool. Nobody else is being fooled.
Right. I mean, I used to
Um,
take tumblers to my kids' events if they were outside events, like the carnivals and
yeah,
stuff. And I'm like, oh, looking back, it's like, oh my gosh, it's so cringeworthy. And now I look at other moms and I'm like, are they doing what I was doing?
yeah. And
Because
that's one of the reasons I created my Instagram page. Um, I figure if I can save one other person, working that 12 step, paying it forward.
yeah.
Uh,
And sharing our stories is very, very like helpful. And I always tell people like it doesn't matter if you think your story is littler than somebody's or bigger than somebody's, as long as you help somebody throughout your process and your story, like that's what matters. Like maybe,
Right.
you change one person's life completely and that is the reward.
Right. And
Um,
I like the fact listening to other stories because we all have a rock bottom, and rock bottom has a basement. And my rock bottom may not even compare to somebody else's, but for another person, it might be like, oh, wow, she went through that. Like mine wasn't that bad. So, at least we all know we're human and we can relate on some level.
yeah, those blackouts are and that's the kind of drunk that I was, is I just blacked out. I would wake up in the morning and be like, "Oh, I have to deal with this. Oh my gosh, what did I say?" I mean, and I think a lot of us are like that, and so many of us don't admit it while we're in full like addiction or alcohol abuse. Um, uh, but I think the more we talk about it, the more it opens up other people's minds that haven't decided to quit drinking yet to be like, oh, maybe it is a problem after all. Because once you don't realize it until you're out of it that it was a problem
Right,
for the most part.
right. I,
Just think it's all fun
there
and
were times
dandy.
there were times when my husband and I would go out and I he's a much larger person than I am, and I would outdrink him 3 to 1.
Mhm.
And I knew I was safe. I had him with me, and I threw care to the wind. Next thing I know is like, how did we get home, or what happened at the end of last night? And yeah, definitely cringeworthy. Like, I
It
look
is.
back now and I wish there was a magic wand that I could rewind the hands of time and change it, but I've learned from my mistakes and I work the program every day so that it works for me.
Right. Do you um you use meditation as a tool? Is there any other tools that you have? Because like how did you get through those for how do you get through those urges and the temptations, and how do you do just life now? Is it strictly meditation, or I mean, because people
Meditation,
struggle
my
with
Bible app.
Bible app.
I get up every morning. I get up. Right now I'm doing the Bible in a year plan. So I get up and I do my plan for that morning. I have the I Am Sober app. So I go in there and I make a pledge. I'm not going to drink today. And then I go into the AA daily reflection. I read that. I usually spend about a half an hour in the morning just focused on my mental health and what I need to do for my sobriety between the sobriety apps and the Bible. Um, and a lot of times when I feel the urge, I go back in time and I fast forward. Okay, you know what? If you have one drink, what's it going to lead to? You know, fast forward that night, what happens? Where do you end up? I I could tell you so many stories that, nearly getting kicked off of a plane flying home from Miami because the plane got a flat tire and I had a six pack before I got on the plane, and then I had four more Bloody Marys on the plane, and I didn't realize my volume or that I was completely inebriated. And yeah. And then when I got into the airport, I had no idea where I was, and sitting in Philly airport on the floor. My husband's like, okay, let's go. But yeah, a lot of it is meditation. But now it's just playing that tape forward. You know what? If I take one, where's it going to lead? Because you never stop at one. I won't stop
Uh,
until I'm passed out on a pillow somewhere.
that was me. Uh, so your story about the airport, you had a six pack before you got there, and then you had Bloody Marys. Um,
On the plane.
how did your husband handle that? Was he mad at you?
We've talked about that since I've gotten sober, and he said, you know what, I had a choice. I could either deal with you getting angry and belligerent, or I could just let you get drunk and pass out.
Ooh, I've
And
heard
he
that
didn't want to
before.
hear anger, the anger and the belligerent version of me, so he would just let me go because it was easier than the fight. Yep.
Yeah, those drunken fights are not fun. And then you're in an airport slash airplane, and then the federal people get involved if something happens.
Yeah,
Which have you ever been
I
in
think my
trouble with?
guardian. No, no, I've been very blessed that way. I've never driven while I was drinking. Most of the time it was at home, or if we were at a party, my husband was the DD because he knew there was no way I could get behind a wheel. Um, so I've never gotten in trouble with the law. I've never lost my job, thank God. Never went to jail. And so I was blessed in some ways, but I mean, I destroyed a lot of relationships in the process, and to me, that's just as bad. I
What do you
mean,
mean when you say that you destroyed a lot of relationships?
um, well, my marriage is on that. My husband told me a year ago that he wanted a divorce. He had been done for years, uh, and I'm hoping that we're able to work through this. I mean, he has seen the changes that I've made, and every day there's more. The journey's never done. Uh, but I have cousins that I don't talk to anymore because drunken fights, and that's the end of it. You say things to people when you're drinking that are just completely obnoxious, and you ruin friendships.
Mhm.
So
Um, what about your children? How many kids do you have?
I have two. I have a daughter and a son, and
Are you?
I am. God.
Oh, I was going to ask what your relationship is like with them because I know like sometimes when parents are too involved in alcohol, it can definitely ruin the relationship. And since your kids are probably a little older than mine, which mine are almost 9 and 7.
Yeah, my daughter's 28. I'd like to believe that she and I are rebuilding our relationship. It was rough as a teenager. She's very quiet and reserved, and I was very loud and boisterous. Um, my son, he's in the military now. He lives two time zones away. But he said, I just always thought that that was how normal families acted. He and I have always been close. I'm sure that there are things that I have done that he's mortified by, but he never brings them up. He tells me how proud he is of me today. So I'm sure that there is stuff he just hasn't voiced it. Uh, and I mean, I've done the amends part. I've apologized. but I'm sure that there's stuff that they still carry, that they will continue to carry. And I just have to do the best I can every day with them and show up for them and be there when they need me for the times when I wasn't.
But now you get to be a more present, I don't know if you're a grandma yet or not, but like now you get to, be a more present grandma when that time, because I think
My
alcohol
daughter had my
definitely
first grandchild last month. Yeah.
last month.
Yes,
Oh,
last month.
that's exciting. Because I know as a mom, a new mom, it's really hard when people are alcoholics and want to come around your kids, especially your first one, where mama bears come out. And so now that you're not drinking,
Mm.
that has to mean a lot to her. Um, like I said, I don't know exactly where you are in your relationship with her, but hopefully she can realize that, it's you're a sober grandma. Maybe you weren't a sober mom in the beginning, but now you're a sober grandma. And that is something to be extraordinarily proud of.
Yeah. I I feel good knowing that if given the opportunity that they can trust me. I can be trusted. And that means a lot.
Yeah. You don't have to have those talks. They don't have to come up to you and be like, Mom, please don't drink when you have my child. Please don't drink and drive with my child. Please, like if something happens, please call me first because I know you'll probably be drinking. Like it's terrible
Right. Yeah.
from
Yeah,
experience.
that's completely off the table now.
That is
Right.
amazing. Uh, so, what's something about your old life that like you never want to go back to? Obviously, like alcohol, but I mean, when did you start drinking and when did it become like a huge, huge issue in your life?
Uh, start. First time I ever had a drink, I think I was 13. Um, there was probably six of us down the shore. My parents had a trailer in a campground down at the Jersey Shore, and there was probably like six of us at the playground one night just hanging out, and one kid had like two St. Pauli girl beers, and that was the first thing I ever drank. I took two sips of it and spit it out and was like, "This is disgusting. I'm never drinking." And, uh, swore it off probably until I was like 16, and friends that I grew up with in the neighborhood, house parties, stuff like that. I wouldn't say it became a problem until like 2005, 2006.
Okay.
My daughter was 10, my son was 8. I was working full time. I was working on my master's degree. So I'm going to school full time. I'm working full time. I'm raising two children full time. My husband works full time. And it was just a way to deal with the stress of life. Come home and have a drink to unwind, like every American beer commercial says, until it became a way to cope and then a way to survive. And that's when I know I really had a problem. So 2013, I think, is when it was like, you know what? You can't go a day without alcohol. You really have a problem functioning. And that's when I tried to quit. And then it became a battle until 2022. And it was an internal struggle. I mean, I saw the damage that I was creating in my marriage. I mean, I didn't know what the damage was, but I knew my husband was angry all the time. Um, and my solution to that was drink, and I wouldn't have to worry about him being angry because I wouldn't care about anything. My daughter tried to avoid me, and then I would get angry, and she and I would argue. I don't even remember what over because, again, I was drunk. But yeah, it took until 2022 for me to finally pull my head out of the sand and go, you know what, you really need to straighten out your life. You're 48 years old. Like, time to grow up and face all the things you haven't faced.
Which is hard. Super
Yeah.
hard. I like how
And
you
so, like,
said it,
years later, still face.
yeah. So I feel like it comes to we we learn to create a habit by coming home and pouring ourselves a drink. And then we rely on it to cope. But instead, like, I don't understand. Like, I was just listening to a book today, one of Alan Carr's books, and it's like we're programmed to come home and unwind with a glass or a beer or whatever. But it's like, why can't we program ourselves to kick off our shoes and just sit in the chair and relax without alcohol? Like, why is it bred into us that we have to relax and unwind with alcohol? It's doesn't help us. It just makes things worse. But society tells us that's what we do. And it created a huge problem for the majority of us that I've talked to.
Yeah. And that was one of the things you asked when I quit. You know, it was changing my routines, changing my patterns, changing my mindset. I literally had to let my old life die in order to create a new one. So I would come home and I started drinking decaf coffee. I gave up caffeine in addition to alcohol. And I would come home and I would drink a cup of decaf coffee and I would put my jammies on. And then I started reading and I was doing audiobooks and regular books. Last year, I actually read 165 books in a year from February of 2024 to, no, 2023 to February 2024. 164 books, 65 books. And that was my new, you know, your ever, you name the genre, I read it. It was, you know, I joined Audible and anything I could get my hands on, from recovery, drama, fiction, nonfiction. I did a lot of, like, I don't want to say the wrong name, but there was a news anchor, a young lady who found herself in the throngs of alcoholism, and I read her autobiography, and it was absolutely amazing. I wish I could remember her name off the top of my head right now, but I can't. So things like that, listening to other people's stories, uh, and just finding ways to occupy my time until bedtime. I started working out. Um, but changing up the pattern, coming home and drinking coffee, the decaf coffee, really helped me look forward to something, you know, because it was, you looked forward to coming home and having that drink. So it was, you know, on the nice days, I would get my coffee and go sit outside and listen to the birds, or, you know, the kids in the neighborhood playing. My kids were grown already, and just finding new things. And that to me was the most important. I've got to find another outlet. I've got to create a new routine. And that's really what helped me get through.
Yeah, those new routines are super crucial. Those new healthier habits are crucial. People would criticize, well, you're just creating another habit. It's like, well, it's a good habit. Drinking sparkling water is much better than drinking alcohol. Drinking coffee,
Right.
decaf or caffeinated, is much better than drinking alcohol. I like working, like being addicted to working out is much better than drinking. I mean, all the healthier habits that we start creating for ourselves are much better than drowning our sorrows in a toxic substance.
Right.
Have you
And even
noticed
some of the, like, I don't even drink coffee.
what?
I said, I, even those habits I've changed. Like, you know, I used coffee as a coping mechanism when I first quit drinking. I don't even drink coffee anymore.
Mhm.
Oh, it's literally all water and Gatorade Zero. That's the only thing I consume.
That's good. What advice would you give to someone listening who is struggling with addiction but isn't sure they can quit?
Anything's possible. And if somebody told me I couldn't do something for the rest of my life, it would probably scare the living daylights out of me. But I look at it moment to moment. You know what? In the next hour, I can accomplish this. You know, and when things would get hard and I would feel like I'm white knuckling, even with, you know, spending money now, you know what? This is what I have in the bank, and you know what? I'm not going to buy anything until payday. I can do that. I can wait until the next payday, and then I'll see what my bills look like. You know, same thing with a drink. You know, I can go until 6:03 without having a drink, just this 1 hour. You know, let me find something else to do. And the biggest thing for me was finding a support system. And, you know, for me, that was my aunt. There's always somebody out there that can support you. You know, whether it's a stranger, go into an AA meeting, do the 90 and 90 meetings in 90 days. It, you know, for some people, that's to save their lives. You know, we earned a chair in that circle. So go sit in it.
Yeah. Um, so you just switched the light bulb one day, and I love that because so many people struggle with finding that switch. Like, how do we just turn that switch off? Like, how do we just stop wanting alcohol? And um, I feel like so many of us think of it as sacrificing alcohol because that's all we've known. The fear of life without alcohol is terrifying, especially in the beginning because you don't know anything else. And
Right.
like, you know, it's it's a thing. And were you scared like, "Oh my gosh, like what is life going to be like when I decide to quit?"
Yeah. Um, I, I use a lot of sarcasm in work, and I would joke with colleagues that, you know, look, you guys gotta lay off me. You know, I'm doing all this sober. And, it came across as sarcasm, but inside I was scared to death. Like, how am I actually going to get through this? You know, but by the grace of God, a lot of praying. I, I was talking the other day and I said, you know, prayer isn't just for morning and bedtime anymore. It's at any given point in the day. I mean, I'll just stop what I'm doing and say the serenity prayer. You know, dear God, please give me the strength to get through this next thing. You know, help me, guide me. And I spend a lot of time talking to the man upstairs. So I owe a lot of it to him. Um, I rely heavily on my faith, and it is possible. I think part of you really has to know that you have to have it. It's not that you want it; it's that you have to have that sobriety because if you don't have it, it is going to kill you.
Right? Were you always a believer?
I was born and raised Catholic. I went to Catholic school for 12 years, married in the Catholic Church. My brother in 2000 committed suicide, had a blood alcohol content of 0.245 when he did it. So a little bit about alcoholism in my mom's side of the family. Um, and I did fall out of grace with God for a while after that. I was very angry. And I think that that's when my drinking started picking up. Uh, again, I grew up in a family where if things were to be celebrated, there was alcohol. If things were to be mourned, there was alcohol. And I did start drinking more when my brother committed suicide. But then I found God again, and now I go to church every Sunday. I spend a lot of time during the day praying. So I would say that I'm much closer in my relationship with Jesus Christ now than I was before I got sober, even before I ever started drinking. Um, yeah,
Wow. So that hit pretty hard, your brother taking his life.
yeah, it was hard.
And you
I was
said point
27 when he passed. 0.245. So he
seven.
was 2.5 times the legal limit. Yeah, I was 27, he was 24. They want the pain to end. Nobody wants to die. They just don't want to be in pain anymore. And, you know, when you're drinking and you're drunk and you're doing it to numb the pain's still there. And sometimes the pain gets even more intensified. And I'd like to believe that whatever he was going through, that he thought that doing what he did would end the pain. I don't think he would realize the pain that it would cause everyone else.
How are you dealing with that now that you're sober?
With his suicide, I've I've
Yeah.
come to peace with it. I, it's been 25 years. So I
Do you think
all through my
like having to sit in those feelings, did they re-come up when you got sober, or was it something that you were already kind of like not moved on from, but like kind of healed a little bit?
accept it. Yeah. Yeah. By the time I got sober, I had healed from that.
Yeah, that's hard. Um, I feel like it's too many people take their lives because they're scared to talk to somebody, and that's the only way out.
Yeah.
I've had several podcasts with people that have lost somebody because they were drunk and took their own lives. And I don't think it ever, like, you accept it, but at the same time, like, so many people don't really, like, I don't think there's a way to, like, really move on from it and truly deep down, like, understand why it has to happen, even though we want to say that it happens. But everybody that I know that has taken their own life has been under the influence of something.
I have to think on that one. I don't know if everybody I know that's ever committed suicide has been under or on some type of mind altering substance. And it doesn't help, that's for sure, because you don't have all your faculties working. It skews your thinking. Oh,
It makes you more depressed. I mean, that's
definitely.
what like alcohol
And
does,
then when
gives you
you
more
decide to quit
anxiety, more depression.
drinking, right? Yep. And then that's something else you have to deal with when you get sober. The roller coaster of your mental health in addition to your sobriety and trying to get it all back in line.
Exactly. How are you how are you emotionally and mentally holding up the last 2.5 years? Um, do you still feel like you have so much more work to do to get you to a happy place?
It's been a roller coaster ride. And there's days that are great, and then there's other days where I'm like, what in the world is going on? How did I get to this point? And I have to remind myself that, you know what? You were drunk for like 18 years. That's how you got to this point. So let's see what you can clean up. You know, every day it's another chance to wake up and show up and do what I need to do to be the responsible adult that I need to be. Whether it's squaring away my finances or making sure I get up and go to work and do what I'm supposed to do. I don't open the refrigerator. I don't look for alcohol. I don't go to the bar. I do the things I'm supposed to do. And I'm there for the
Right.
people that need me.
I feel like so many people don't realize you have to work through those roller coaster of emotions. Just because you get sober, it doesn't mean life is going to be perfect. You have
I
to
know.
work through it. It is every day. Like, it's not like the easiest part is putting that bottle down. The the hard part is staying sober, working through those
Right.
feelings, those roller coasters. I mean, there's some windy roller coasters some days.
Yeah. Dealing with life's up and downs. And, when things get really bad and I hate what I'm dealing with, I go, you know what? She'll look on the bright side. You have your sobriety. If you have your sobriety, you can get through anything. And
Yeah.
that's like my lifeline now. I wouldn't trade it for the
You're
world.
stronger
I don't
sober.
care what comes at me. I'm going to, yes, yes.
And I think that people look at alcohol as their tool.
And it's not, it's a crutch.
It
You
is.
got to put that
It's
crutch
definitely a
down.
crutch. Yeah. And learn to like dive into why you're feeling this way and, you know, just push through the hard days. I mean, you've come from very hard. I mean, you were in a tough spot, and you've come and you've not letting it push you back down.
No,
So
I'm not
you
going
have to
to
be so
either.
proud of yourself. Yeah, exactly. You should be very proud of yourself. I think your family should be very proud of you too for how far you've come, because 18 years of drinking and blackouts and causing issues in relationships, I can raise my hand to that. Been there, done that. And like, you are on a mission to, you have an Instagram called Recovery Girl, right?
Yes,
And then
yes,
and you get to just restart your life sober and be who you truly are without the negative.
yeah. Trying to right all the
And you can help
wrongs.
other
And
people with your story.
yes, that's the most important part. If I can save one other life out there, I've done my job.
Exactly. Oh my gosh. I've loved talking to you, and I really hope that you and your daughter can really fix your relationship, and I like wish the best for you and your husband. I know that that can't be easy. Uh but you know what? Like you said, prayer really is powerful.
Right. Thank you very much for having me on. I appreciate your time.
Yeah, I appreciate your time.